To be honest with you, I find that women don't push themselves as hard as they can. Ironically, I'm like, but it's so good for your hormones. You'd have to eat so much to put on that much size. P.S. It also does not happen. I think they think if they go to the gym and they lay down, they're gonna wake up and, be 3 times bigger. It takes years to put on that kind of mass.
Right. And you've been working out how many years now?
I have been working out for 32 years.
Wow. And you're not a mass monster.
And I'm 117 pounds.
Right. And you go heavy and hard and
yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back. So today's show with Alicia Ziegler is brought to you by Myoscience Nutrition. As you can tell, we're talking a lot about strategies and tactics to build muscle and burn fat and eat healthy whole foods after the age of 40. Alicia is both an actress as well as a lifelong athlete. I really hope you enjoy this episode and all the actionable sound bites that she shares with you about maintaining a healthy body composition into your 40s and beyond. Now, today's show is brought to you by our sister company, Myoscience Nutrition. A tool that can help you with your exercise sessions as well as supporting healthy hydration is the novel creatine-containing Electrolyte 6 by Myoscience. There's over 700 reviews from people just like you who are using this before and during their workout sessions as well as during their sauna sessions to optimize their athletic performance and support healthy hydration. What makes this product unique is the red mineral salt. You have 2.6 grams of creatine, the Crea Pure material from Germany, as well as taurine, magnesium, and potassium. So you can save using the code podcast over at myoscience.com, which is myoscience.com. That's Myoscience with an X. I will put links in the description below where you can read related reviews from people just like you who are using this to get more mileage from their exercise sessions. So let's cut back to it with Alicia. She is a lifelong athlete, has a great mindset and approach when it comes to improving your body composition by way of fitness. So here we go.
So Alicia, really great to have you on. I would love to just pick your brain on nutrition and fitness, and maybe just for folks that aren't familiar with your work and things like that. You've been an actress since you were 13 years old, you just told me, which is fantastic. I think a lot of people that are watching this video would love to know how you stay so fit over 40. So I want to get into your exercise and all that, but for folks that don't know you, talk about how you got into fitness and health, at an early age. It was a health issue, right, that got you really interested in changing your diet?
Yeah, actually the impetus to actually starting activity came when I was 10. My father was murdered when I was 10, and I was an only child with a single mom, and I realized that I kind of didn't have an outlet. I wasn't aware of my feelings and what I was doing, and one day at school we had been running around the track, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of getting some feelings from this, I like this. And then we would go to the grocery store and I would notice the fitness magazines, and I was like, wow, all these people look really happy. All these people look active and happy and they're doing things. And so my mom would buy me a magazine if it was in the budget, and I would read them. And then one day I went to her and I was like, Mom, can I have a pair of running shoes? And she was like, okay. And so I started actually running at 10. And then I met my stepdad at about the age of 13, and he played racquetball. And he was like, why don't you come to the gym with me? So then I was introduced to weight training. And then after weight training and doing all the things that you do in high school and sports or what have you, I actually started to get sick. And I was diagnosed with IBS, chronic fatigue, and Epstein Barr on the same day.
Wow.
And I was, exactly.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. And I couldn't figure at the time while I was working and trying to balance everything why I was feeling so down. I had thought that my diet was pretty good and I was taking care of myself, but I was just not thriving. So I went to the doctor, like I said, and she started to write me a prescription, and my entire insides just clenched. And I just looked at the prescription and I thought, I don't think I can do this. So I walked up to the car, I threw it on the floorboard of the car, and I said, I'm going to school. And I enrolled in a nutrition program. I got my Master's of Science in Health and Nutrition Education, and I started to kind of rehab myself and transform my diet and kind of pinpoint what it is that I was doing. And on top of that, when I started to feel better, then I was able to kind of really start maximizing my training.
Nice.
Because as you know, they go hand in hand.
Totally.
Right? Food is fuel and is medicine. And so then it was kind of like game on.
Yeah. Going back to the Epstein Barr, have you looked at your antibodies recently? I've heard that can go away but can lie dormant. How's your energy now and things like that? I'm just personally interested.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I have not had it tested in a while. Actually, I probably haven't been to the doctor since prior to COVID. It's been probably about 5 years. And I had a slight bout where I started to notice it creeping up. And so I was realizing that I might have been going too hard at the time, like when I'm really maximizing my training with stress, like outside, it can really have that wearing down effect. Sure. So on a medical level, yes, I should go get tested. But when you start to notice it, I think you can, do the things that you need to do. If you've suffered from it or you've had it, you kind of know like, hey, it's time to pull back.
Right. So when life load is high and exercise load is high, that's when you notice like you might get tired and not recover as well, and so you just back off a little bit.
Right, for sure, because you're assuming like, oh, it's burnout, right? But for somebody that has Epstein Barr, it's not burnout. Like,
it's literally
the flat line of not feeling so good and not being able to get out of bed is on the horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So
at this point in time, you transitioned more towards a vegan diet. That's what you found was most helpful for you.
Yeah, I did. So back during all of this, and when I was in school studying, I kind of was more of a vegetarian. So I was having that influx and like really high, like cottage cheese and yogurts and eggs and things that turned out to be very inflammatory on my body. Yeah. And were ultimately making me sick, slowing me down, making me sluggish, adding to, food in your mood. You know that, right? And so I just started to feel really down, and I was kind of getting depressed. I was worried about it. I didn't know if it was hormones. And so I started to kind of extract all of those foods from my diet. And I realized like, oh, I'm actually feeling pretty dang good not having that as a staple. And then the meat was just something where ethically, of course, I'm an animal person, and it was just hard for me to kind of justify that. But more so, it was harder for me to digest it. And I thought I was a preemie. Who knows what happened back then? But I was like, I don't have enough enzymes to break this down. I feel really lethargic after I eat it. I feel kind of tired and agitated. And so I was having my own personal, I felt like I was watching my own movie, right? I was like, oh, you don't feel so good. Like, maybe you shouldn't eat that. And that was kind of that. And so when I found that I could go vegan and be really nutritious with it, I started doing bodybuilding competitions and was in magazines for it and just really being a positive advocate, but mostly for, like we always talk about, as whole food. Whole food nutrition as like, that's the number one, and then everything else is icing on the non-dairy cake.
I agree, 100%. But the downside with all these different diets, whether it's keto or like classical, layman version of a vegan diet,
Sure.
is the heavy reliance on processed
Yes.
food. And so I know that's what separates your approach from many others, is you're not just going and getting the jackfruit chicken alternative, you are making your food from scratch and so forth. So I would love to know, like, what resources did you find helpful back then, and are they still applicable, or did you just kind of figure this out as you went? In terms of how to get enough amino acids and protein and all that.
Yeah, sure thing. I really do find that I really find food journals to be helpful. And I know that people find them to be just cumbersome and something they don't want to do, but you really can pay attention to how you're feeling. And so I was playing around with that because yes, I'm not a huge advocate of packaged foods. A lot of that started on set as an actress. Like I was like, wow, we are being fed, before it was cool, a lot of packaged things at Crafty, right? And I was like, wow, these people are having 16 hours of not feeling well. And it's a lot of sugar and a lot of caffeine.
Like Oreo? Like what
all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, like
and
Nature Valley oat bars and those granola bars and a lot of gum and just, sugar.
How do people maintain their physique eating that stuff if they're acting?
So I don't think they do. I think that's, like the culprit. Like I think if you can harness, like I live on beans and lentils and things that I really go for fiber and things I can digest. I eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of really good fruit. And I think that when you start to get those sugar alcohols and those sugars and those things that bloat you and disrupt your gut, like when clients come to me, people come to me, it's all gut. Like gut is your life, it is your immune system, it is your safety net, it is what will make or break you. And if you don't get that going, everything else is like just a cascading domino effect of pain, inflammation, joint pain, all of that. Mood, hormones don't function. And so for myself, I was like, oh, I really do well with lentils, or I really do well with beans, but my beans need to be soaked. Okay, I really do like rice, but rice isn't serving me in this arena on a daily basis. Okay, great. Maybe if I put some coconut oil in it, and I just started to play. And I would read books like Sneaky Blends, like food you can have that had, vegetables and apples or fruit or whatever people didn't know in them that could kind of shift. Yeah, like I'm the person that will show up with the black bean beet brownies and everybody thinks they're just chocolate.
Right. Those are actually really good. I love those when I do get them. I personally don't digest some beans very well, but I love that you mentioned you soak them ahead of time. I think that's, not a lot of people know about the preparatory strategies to optimize digestibility of food.
Right.
And so you were Sally Fallon in Nourishing Traditions. I don't know if that book, if you've read it or not, but she talks a lot about that. Even rice and beans. So walk us through like a meal prep. So the night, let's say you're gonna make, you just ran, was it 26 miles this past weekend?
50.
50, okay.
It was my first 50.45.
That's impressive. So just to kind of circle back to the amino acids, so beans are your primary amino acid at this point?
To be honest with you, I actually take an amino through a company that I work with that is one of the only physician's desk referenced. It's absorbed in 23 minutes, and I kind of treat them like my candy. I am very amino focused, yes. And then I do beans and I do lentils, but I don't do them all day. And I think that there's this, people kind of also pay attention, like if you front load some foods that you don't think you digest as well earlier in the day, that's why you also, no different than meat, right?
Sure.
If I get up and I'm having a bean burrito, it's probably likely I'm not gonna feel that great a couple hours from then, 6 hours, right? Like that's something I might tailor toward after I've worked out, after my stomach's not hot, after I've gone through a little digestive period, things like that.
Okay.
Right? So I really have treated my entire diet like a science project.
Sure.
For myself. But yeah, the soaking is key, right? Because nothing that we get at the store in a package ever shows up like you would have it before it ever got to the grocery store. So it behooves us to wash it or read about how to prep it or follow you so you can tell us, because you offer so much in that arena in order to, I don't know, really feel good.
Mm-hmm. So do you soak it in lemon water or just water overnight? Is that your strategy for beans?
Yeah, I mean, you can soak them in the lemon for sure. I've literally just soaked them in alkaline water.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you cook it in a pressure cooker, slow cooker, or just on the stovetop?
I think slow cookers are the greatest thing that happened since sliced bread.
I have two of them.
I love things where you're like, I'm going to create this, turn it on, and go do something for 4 hours and come back and my meal is made. First of all, it eases stress, which is going to make your stomach happy, the eating process happy. Like doing those little things are beneficial in every way possible, right. I think.
I agree. I mean, and then you're batching your cooking. You have a lot of bulk. So what do you
storing in glass.
100%. Not plastic? You don't put the hot right in the
what?
plastic?
I don't. Yeah, I know. No plastic.
Interesting. So how are you flavoring the beans? Is it onions? Is it spices? Like what are some ways that you?
So I love garlic, but as of late, garlic and we're not
friends anymore?
We're not friends right now. Okay. But I'm one of those people that's like, that's nice, that's a right now thing. I don't put it in my head like I can't ever have it again. So we're working on it. Onions, I love. Green onions, I put probably green onions on everything if I could. I'm a big avocado person. I'm addicted to the color green, as you can tell. So that's usually when I'm building my plate, that is the first color I put on it. Cool. And then I build everything else around that, to be honest with you. I know most people are like, I'm gonna start with my protein and I'm gonna do this. I'm like, I'm gonna start with my green, whether it's the broccoli or the zucchini or whatever, and then I kind of build around that. So, awesome. But yeah, so I do a lot of flavoring. I do the Himalayan like pink sea salt, everything but the seasoning, organic version I love too. I think that if you can flavor things that you think might be boring and they become palatable to you, you will eat them. Yeah. And I have found that people when you're more creative, you'll eat it.
Right. And there's something to be said about minimizing the amount of sensory inputs from food. Like if you get a bag of Doritos and you eat that for 3 days straight, the beans or the whole real food is going to taste really not as palatable or as exciting. And so I think once you shift your diet to eating more of these whole foods, you don't have a appetite for all these hyper palatable, there's all sorts of MSG and different flavoring profiles in some of the packaged things, which is not good from a satiety standpoint.
Right? If it's 2 inches. Yeah. And that, I think that says a lot because we've conditioned ourselves to think that it's okay to have cheat meals. And I'm not a cheater. I don't reward myself with that kind of thought. No. And like you were saying, so for my prep and my training, I kept that like, this isn't the time that I'm going to be like, it's okay. I'm running all these miles. I'll just eat some peanut M&Ms the whole time. I was like, no, this is not the time to disrupt the gut, bring that energy level down, stress the system, possibly create, havoc in the body before you even start. So I really try to keep it, a gluten-free tortilla with a banana and peanut butter, some pumpkin spice maybe for the season, roll it up, cut it up, little savory, tasty things that aren't going to, be the gummy bears or the Skittles or the Goos or whatever, that kind of stuff.
That's an important point. I think in the endurance athletic community, we were talking about, on set with actors and actresses and things like that, a lot of junk food. But in the athletic community, there's so much junk food too. I mean, if you go to a mainstream marathon to see what people are eating, it's horrendous. And I used to be an endurance athlete myself, a cyclist, and it was just insane what people would eat. And so I think that's important because the damage on the body. So you're able to maintain your level of fitness, as you age and so forth. And I've seen, you do on the Concept 2 on the rower,
I love
I don't know how many meters, 5,000 meters or something insane.
I think the day I did 1 hour and 5, you were like, what are you doing?
Wild, right?
Why?
So how are you fueling? Are you doing that fasted?
I do it fasted.
Okay.
And here's my reason why. Because I do it first thing in the morning. If I did not get up first thing in the morning and have either the vegan version of a bulletproof coffee or just my coffee, I would eat before I trained, right? But because I get up so early, I have been doing this for so long that my body is really used to really putting out a good amount of effort before I need some intake. But for most people, I always say, well, what is your energy? Like, are we having an energy deficiency while we're exercising and you can't maintain and you're getting sluggish and tired? Or are you the kind of person that can really be like, I feel good, I can keep going, and I'm tapping into my energy reserves and like winning the day. Right. So I feel on certain days, I am mindful though. Like I always keep a little snack in my bag, right? Like we got our mangoes,
banana,
something like that. That if we need a little pick me up while I'm training, but for the most part, And then I just focus on actually having aminos right after. Okay.
And how much are these like branched chain, leucine, isoleucine, valine, glutamine, all of that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then after your workout, when do you start to have your first meal?
When I'm not lazy. No, I'm kidding. It really does depend on my day and how I'm feeling. If I do something that heavy and I'm feeling, like I said, too warm, I'll give it a minute. And I usually drink Beets with like a cocoa hydrate. So it's like a coconut water and a lot of like electrolytes in that. And so I'll drink that and it kind of satisfies me for about 30 minutes to an hour. And then I usually eat. Because I really do feel that people stuff their face without pain. Because here's the thing. It's not that you can't eat. It's that people don't chew. Or they're pounding water while they're eating, and it's like whole food going in there, and then the body's trying so hard to break it down, but all the blood's rushing to your stomach. You've just done all this exercise, and it turns into this whole thing. And then you're like, oh, now I don't feel good. Right? And now you've associated what you're eating with your exercise or how you're feeling. You know the mind. Sure. All of a sudden it becomes a thing, and it's like, well, it wasn't a thing until we made it a thing. So you wait about an hour.
Yeah. I think a good point that you said is wait until you actually get hungry. I think we're trained like, you have to have the protein shake right when you get done from the gym, but sometimes you're not hungry or you're still stressed from the workout and in a sympathetic state because there is a transient stress-induced adaptation that comes with exercise. It's favorable, and then it'll peter down, and you'll be more in a parasympathetic state. But
I mean, yeah, if I had to be perfectly honest with you, I've had days where I eat at like 2.
yeah, because you're
And
not
I've
even
trained
hungry.
at 6. And I've had water all day and electrolytes, and I'm great.
Yeah. So I love beets for different reasons. Maybe they're the same reasons as you, but why do you have beets post-workout or beet juice? What is it about that?
Yeah, I think that beet powder, the one that I take, has adaptogens in it too. And I really feel like if we're going to stress the body, we have to give it a little bit of juju, a little bit of something, feel good. But I do get energy from it. I do like that it's a vasodilator. I do like the whole nitric oxide effect. I can feel a difference when I'm training. And I just feel like it's such a simple, almost like a simple antioxidant that just has so many benefits so simply.
Yeah.
Right? Like it offers so much for just its mere existence.
Right. Beets are amazing. I mean, I love all the tubers, root vegetables, carrots, beets,
Yep.
turnips, parsnips. I mean, I grow all those. They're so fun. And what's nice about carrots and beets and turnips is there's minimal anti-nutrients in there, right?
Right.
So easy to digest for most people. They taste good. And you mentioned the vasodilatory properties with the nitrates and different precursors for nitric oxide, which is pretty cool. I love that. So do you do any zone 2 specific training? Let's go, like the nuances of your training. I see, you did 50 miles.
Are they watching me laugh? This is really funny.
I mean, do you,
I have tried.
yeah.
Mike, I wear 2 watches.
Oh, wow. So you have an Apple Watch, and then is this a Fitbit?
This is my Whoop.
Whoop, okay.
Okay.
Nice.
And when I tell you that I try, I really do. But it's like 3. Like I hover at 3 all the time. But I really do try to get into 2. But for the most part, it's a pain.
Good.
But
The intensity's not there.
I believe in it. Absolutely. And if you can do it, awesome. But I'm still a work in progress.
Yeah.
For the 2.
Right. Yeah, it seems like you're not doing much. That's why I don't really, unless
Yeah.
I'm hiking or walking, that's my.
But even then, when you're like, first of all, if you have an efficient heart rate, it's too much work. And I just feel as though if I'm going to spend the time exercising, I want it to be all out. Yeah. I'm going to give it all I've got for that day, whatever energy I've got, because I feel like I'm in zone 2 the rest of the day.
Yeah. Just walk around doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. Like that's why I laughed when I tried. I go, oh, I can't do. This is not for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, why were you trying? Because Peter Attia and other people have been talking about
Yeah.
it, or okay.
I said, okay, fine. Sure. And here's the thing, and that's how the whole vegan thing came and all that. Like, I am one of the first people that will usually be like, I'll try something just to see, and that's probably just so I can not discredit it, but be like, really? I don't know what that does, because I really feel like most people are sedentary and they actually need more than the 2.
Yeah, more.
Right? Like, we are designed to move. We are designed to push. We are designed to pull. We are designed to have hard activity. Our brain needs it. And so I feel if you're kind of just lollygagging, it's not really serving you unless you're the kind of person that really does just sit. In which case, then yeah, get up and walk.
Right.
But if you have the nature and you have the power and the physicality that you can give it more, I believe 3 and up.
Mm-hmm. And how many days a week? I want to know what you do and then what you would recommend to your clients, because it might be a little bit different because you're a lifelong athlete.
Yeah, so I train 7 days a week. And it's not because I don't believe in a day off. I think once you've just established a really good work ethic and you know yourself and you have great recovery, it's easy. People expected me to be sore, and I was walking the next day after my 50. My 50, I was sore. Woke up the next morning and I was like, let's move. Who's going for a run? Other than the state of my feet, right? So for my clients, I say my preference would be 6 days and no less than 5.
Yeah. I like
And
that.
it's because what I have found is most people justify their eating. So they're out eating their workout and not getting their results. Then they're not feeling well. And it's like this constant hamster wheel. And I think that if you are able to put in the time and the work up front, and that's the whole thing, like I was telling you about the acting, like I got myself to a point where I can maintain, because I don't want to have to get ready for a role. Right. I want to be ready. just like life. Like people are like, why are you training? I'm like, I train for life. You never know what's gonna happen, right? You have to be able to like take care of yourself, survive something, like pick yourself up off the floor, that kind of stuff. And so for my clients, I really do try to have them do 5 days a week.
I like that. Yeah, I think that's important. And there's various studies showing that when people habitually exercise, they naturally eat better. So it goes hand in hand. Because a lot of people say, well, I need to have my pasta or my mac and cheese or my pizza or whatever. They have these addictions. And so I think if they actually, made a pillar, a foundation of exercise, then those food choices would be easier to just delay the gratification towards. So.
And that's the thing too, like, because people will say, oh no, that's not really the case. And I go, but when you start to see that they don't make you feel good, you're not gonna want it. It's not the taste or the thought or the craving of like, oh, but I really want that. I'm like, your body's not gonna want that because the body already knows, hey, I've had that before and I actually don't feel so good after I have it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, it's inflammatory.
Right? Like, that's the thing. And I think if we could really just step back, like all diets aside, all exercise programs, like how is your digestive system working for you? Are you breaking out? Are you having hair loss? Are you really agitated and moody? Are you waking up with back pain all the time and thinking it's your bed and not your diet? Are you belching all the time and you think that gas is funny? Like there's a lot going on in your body that are the telltale signs of like, hey man, we need a new diet.
Right. These are symptoms that what you're eating is not, the inputs are wrong.
Totally.
Good point.
Yeah.
So going back to the intensity, so you train every day. How many of those days are super high intense, zone 5 or lactate threshold type training, would you say?
Most. Cool. Most. Yeah. I'm a very type A, YOLO person. If I'm really, I've noticed too that if I think that I'm going to the gym and I'm like, oh, it's not going to be that great, it always turns out to be my best one, right? And I try not to preface anything with like, oh, well, I'll just take it easy. Like I try to just go in with the same mentality and then see. And this is what I've discovered and this is what I've told my clients. Just warm up. I don't care if you complain, you curse my name, you hate me, you hate everybody, and everybody that's doing it, just warm up. Because the second you warm up, your body's like, let's go. I'm in. I'm in it to win it, whatever it takes. And I say, and give me no less than 30. And if you can only give me 30, throw in some burpees. Throw in jumping jacks. Throw in a full body, total calorie burn. But yeah, like I find myself, I'm the only one doing burpees over the barbell at my gym. But every once in a while, other than leg days, my leg days are the only days I don't do a lot of cardio. Because I'm trying to really build them. And then the other days I'm rowing or I'm cycling or I'm running. If they're an upper body day, and I usually will include HIIT.
Nice.
Yeah.
And are you doing, I want to talk more about leg day, but since you mentioned sort of upper body, are you doing resistance training first and then the HIIT training, or what's the order of operations?
Right. So as one would normally suggest, they say, yes, that's what you should do. Here's what I have found. I will not do the cardio if I don't do it first.
So you just like to knock it out.
So I knock it out because it's also better for the fasted state, right? I'm not going to dip into anything while I'm weight training like I will when I'm doing my cardio. So I use all of that, and then I feel like I really get to test myself with weight training after.
Okay, cool.
So that's how I've been doing it, and it's worked.
Nice. And so how many days a week are you weightlifting? Is this 7 days a week as well? Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
And do you take, like, there's all these deload weeks and rest weeks and things? You just go on vacation, you're figuring stuff out?
Yeah, so when I'm on vacation, so that's one of the reasons I also started running. That's because I love to be like, okay, we got here, I went for a run, and I come back and everybody's getting up and I'm like, I know 6 places we can go today. Right. I've seen the city, we got this place and that place, but I find that it's one of those natural human built-in systems that we're designed for, counter to what everybody else has said. So I like to do some running, and then I'm the person that, if I have to lift with my suitcase if there's no thing, or I will do lunges or air squats, or I take bands, things that are easy, but I don't take days off because I know that the brain is lazy. And if you give it too much cushion and too much downtime, that will turn into like
a new pattern, a new habit.
A new pattern. And a very easy one. I'm too busy. Now I'm tired. I didn't do it on vacation and it worked. And then before you know it, you're like, I gained.
Yeah.
There you go. And then before you know it, you're 15 up and now you're miserable again.
I like that. Just maintain that inertia. The flywheel just keeps spinning.
Right? And you don't even have to do it for very long on vacation. That's the thing. Like, you don't have to make it an all-day event.
Right. 20, 30 minutes. Like that.
Yeah. And if you're doing the 20, 30, I always tell people, then just give me 100 burpees.
Cool.
Just do some burpees every minute on the minute. Like, you don't have to overcomplicate it, but give your body and your cells the jump.
When your brain, it makes you, it feel, sometimes vacation, because you're not being so productive, it can be, as fun as it can be, traveling, novelty and all that, it gives you like some purpose, some meaning, you know, and you're in a better mood, and then I'm a huge fan of that. But going back to, you mentioned you don't do cardio on leg day. I want to know, are you doing squats, hip thrusts, leg presses? What have you found for maintaining, toned and strong legs?
Sure thing. So the only reason that so this is a new thing. This is like the last couple of months. And I was trying to see if I was able to sculpt them differently by not doing that. So I'll do a little bit of a warm up on the bike. I really love riding the bike. Like, my family's a bunch of cyclists and stuff like that. So I'll ride the bike. And then, I usually start with a back squat, and then I do a front squat. I'll do a single leg press. I do a lot of lunges. I like step ups. I wear my weighted vest. I like to do leg curls sitting and lying down, because I feel like they activate just different muscles. I love leg extensions. Walking lunges are kind of one of my like total go-tos, and I feel like they're so great for women, especially for that balance. Women don't have the same proprioception like men do, right? So really kind of honing in on those skills and focusing on that. But yeah, and then I do calves as well, because I do a lot of the running and the mountain stuff, and I like to make sure that Achilles is happy, and yeah.
Super cool.
But I do inner and outer as well. I believe in adductor and abductor is great, especially for anybody with low back problems. I do a lot of low back extensions, weighted.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weighted lunges and walking lunges, I think those are, at least for me, I found like one of the best exercises for your glutes.
Yeah.
They really, I'm sore the next day, whereas if I do hip thrusts, and I love hip thrusts and, reverse hypers and deadlifts and all that, lunges, they're under-recognized, I feel like.
And I agree with you, because here's the thing. Over 40, I noticed that I was a little more aggravated in those lesser exercises, right? Like the deadlift, I was like, oh, I'm starting to kind of, that sciatica is a little triggered, or I'm not really getting the growth that I'm looking for. And then I noticed, I was like, well, front lunges and back lunges are working. And
What works?
And you do what works. And so I'll do a little of the other stuff, but I don't do it really heavy. I'll do it as, like good mornings as a start, and then I move into the lunges.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Are most of your friends pretty active as well? Do you have a lot of, like a lot of friends that are like in your same fitness level, or are you an outlier?
I'm an outlier. My friends think I'm absolutely just crazy, and they love it, and they're motivated by it. But the girls that I just ran with, she was like, I've never done anything like this. I met her on Instagram.
Oh, cool.
Flew out there, met her. But I have people in my life that exercise, but not as much of the, I got to prove myself, let's go. Like, I feel like giving yourself something to do every year is really fun. So if whatever the year entails, I try to find some like one fun activity on the calendar that's like, what is this going to prove to you? So the 50 miles was mine this year, Right. So I'm like, oh, do you do Gore-Tex 50 this year? Do you want to do a half marathon? That kind of stuff. So I'm an outlier for sure.
What do you think makes a difference between someone who is a habitual exerciser like yourself versus someone who just can't be consistent?
It's choice.
They just choose. Do you think they don't see that there's benefits to the exercise, or it's they haven't gotten into the habit, or they aren't comfortable with their gym? Like,
there's so many caveats to it, because that could be a case-by-case basis, right? Like if someone's like, I don't really feel like I know what I'm doing at the gym, I always say, get a trainer. Like here's the thing, because once you get addicted and you have fun, it is fun. Because you get to know you. and you are with you and you can challenge you. But everybody's like, oh, you just wake up that day. I'm like, I don't. I choose to be in this state. I choose to use this as my medicine. I choose to use this as my endorphin high for the morning. It's what sets my day. It probably will ensure I'm nicer to people while driving here. But I think that's the thing. I think that people act, and I'm sure you came across that too, and doing your long distances, is people think that you're some kind of anomaly, or I could never be that. And I say to myself, you could, you're just choosing not to. And it keeps you safe, and it keeps you in that comfortability of like, well, if I don't change, then it's kind of justified. But it breaks my heart because I'm like, but you want to, and I see it in you. So like, let's do it. Like, come on over and let me show you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right.
And do you do group classes, or is this one-on-one you're coaching?
Oh, I was doing a lot of one-on-one programming for folks. Yeah. And here's what I noticed. I don't do it a lot in person anymore because I realize it is all psychology. It is this, right? So I had to stop doing the one-on-one because I said, I'm not here for therapy. I'm here to train you. So they go hand in hand, and I'm all about it. But I said, I don't want you to spend your time on the gym floor, like working out stuff. Like, I want to really physically get you to where you want to be. So.
Is there any books or resources to help people address the psychological aspect of it that you found to be helpful?
Body, Mind, and Sport. It's one of my favorite books.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that book.
You're going to love it.
Okay.
It's like you wrote it.
Cool. All right.
You can just write the next version. Yeah, I think it's been out for a while. Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
Cool. So you don't do cheat days? Will you have ice cream or things like that, or you'll do your black bean brownies?
Yeah, no, I know. People think I'm so boring, and I swear I'm not depriving myself. Here's the thing. To be honest with you, Mike, like, I lost so many family members to cancer. And when you're standing at the hospital as a young person and they say, wow, well, maybe if they had kind of taken better care of themselves, or they hadn't done this, or they hadn't been drinking so much, or they had scaled back on the sugar, maybe we wouldn't be in these positions. Fine. But I didn't grow up with that, right? I grew up with this, oh no, I actually have control of what I'm putting in my body. This is the one thing I do have control over. I can control how I feel. So why not capitalize on that and make myself feel as good as possible for as long as possible? I guess when I cheat, it's probably like a boring cheat, or like the dairy-free monk fruit version of something.
The healthiest of the healthy.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, and I'll put some organic peanut butter on there, but I don't really know. And I just don't find the
juice isn't worth the squeeze.
It's
basically.
not, and I don't think that we're not dogs. I don't think rewarding yourself is a good psychological setup. If you have a certain goal, right?
And that's why it's good, like you said, to have a physical goal to tether those dietary choices so you can achieve that goal. I like that.
And I think once you get to the goal, then you have wiggle room. So if you do travel and you get a cold and you're off for a few days, then it's not the end of the world to you. But when you're somebody who hasn't gotten to your goal, those few days can make the difference.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so you recently did it's not a tryout, what is it?
An ultra.
I'm sorry, with a company that sells the exercise bike. You went in there and
an audition.
An audition. Sorry, the vernacular was escaping.
I was like, wait, where are we going? Yeah, an audition. No, you're good.
How would you rate your fitness level compared to your peers who are not with the same level of dedication?
More so. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing, and that's kind of the irony of being in Hollywood and fit, is that they'll ask for fit, but it's too fit. Right? Do I look like...
You're too intimidating for the end user kind of thing. Okay.
And it's never, I don't try to. I feel like, oh, you want fit. This is perfect. I'm fit. I've worked to get here. Like, I've used your equipment to get here. Yeah. And then when I do the auditions, it's usually I'm more sculpted, let's say, than my peers.
Right. And
which is, yeah.
That's challenging.
Very.
And how would you say your peers, is it their diet or their exercise programs that are different than yours, or both?
To be honest with you, I find that women don't push themselves as hard as they can, which, ironically, I'm like, but it's so good for your hormones.
Why do you think, is there a perception that they're going to put on too much muscle and be bulky? Is that, or?
Yeah, I think with the craze of CrossFit coming out, that everybody had a panic attack. And I always tell women, you'd have to eat so much to put on that much size. P.S. It also does not happen. I think they think if they go to the gym and they lay down, they're going to wake up and, be 3 times bigger. It takes years to put on that kind of mass.
Right. And you've been working out how many years now?
I have been working out for 32 years.
Wow. And you're not a mass monster.
And I'm 117 pounds.
Right. And you go heavy and hard. And
yeah. I'm usually, and my heaviest is probably 125. But I'm more comfortable in the 120 range. But training for all of this, I lost a bunch of weight. Just, I think.
From the volume.
Yeah, from the volume and being tired. Sometimes when you get tired, you get a little like, I'm just going to go to bed. So that one was totally on me. But yeah, I know. I think if women, I could just get women to lift. I really just, if I could put anything out into the universe, I'm like, just lift. It is a game changer on your psyche, your confidence, your body, how you fit in your clothes. And it gives you the goal that you're looking for.
Yeah. But there's this propensity for women to just go on the elliptical.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the mindset. Well, I think if people watch the video and see how fit you are, they'll be inspired to just go in there and lift. And I think for some gyms, there's just so many men in there in the free weight section. Women don't want to be hit on. They just want to go work out, and there's chaos. So then they just go and do other things, group fitness classes or whatever. So yeah, finding a gym, and thankfully now there's gyms everywhere of all different types and so forth, which is helpful.
I think too, having a program, here's the, for me, when I was bodybuilding and competing, I would print my little program of what I was going to do that day, and I would tape it to my water bottle. And then I would just go in and do that as if it was homework. So that if anybody was around, it didn't matter, because this is my accomplishment and this is what I'm doing, irregardless of what you people are doing, right? And take ownership. Get on the floor, because I can guarantee you, half the guys in my gym, I'm like, yo, guys, come on, what are we doing? That's not lifting. Most people are texting. They're textercising.
That was going to be my next question is, do you bring your phone to work out with you?
So I'm pathetically old school with my cord, but it's in a fanny pack, and it's only for my music, so I can change it on my watch. But no, I think it is absolutely the most infuriating, rude, horrible thing ever to do in a gym. And here's the thing, it takes all your time and burns no fat, nor does it give you the muscle that you're looking for, and it's a complete distraction.
Yeah, it's pretty wild now. Most commercial gyms, everyone is just bent over on their phone. It just blows my mind.
I almost took a picture today. The guy's phone was this close, and I was like, first of all, the blue screen that close to your face?
Well, just the phone itself that close to your skin. It's incredible.
Oh yeah, no. And I was going to say that too. That was one of the things with my grandfather. They said it's because he had a phone. He had a brain tumor.
Oh, shoot.
We think that everything in this world is it's good for us. I'm like, it's really not. We're not
intended. Well,
we're
safety
flesh.
measurements.
We're sponges.
Yeah. They're tested 7 millimeters away from the skin, the manufacturers, iPhone and Samsung and all that. And so these are not meant to contact our skin for extended periods of time.
So you're basically saying my fanny pack is really cool?
Well, I think it is cool, yeah. I think that's awesome.
Everybody else picks on me.
I cringe when it's in a sports bra.
Oh.
It's like, I want to go up to these
Or
women.
the guys that set it on their...
Yeah.
I know.
It's tough. It's wild. But you mentioned sleep, and sleep I think is really important, especially as you get older. So what does your sleep protocol look like? And then what are the hour leading up to bedtime? What do you do?
Yeah. So I do try to stop eating at least 3 hours before bed, unless I'm actually really, really hungry, and then I'll just have a tiny little snack or a little organic peanut butter, something small, just so I'm satiated and I'll sleep through the night, because I really do. Or I'll have some more aminos. I do find the aminos kind of fill me for that, if need be. But I'm a wind down. I am a book reader. I am put the phone away from me, turn on the fan, turn off the lights. No, none of this Netflixing and chilling. I'm reading and chilling. And so sometimes I'll stretch, sometimes I'll meditate and foam roll. I use my evening to kind of what can I give my body as a thank you for the end of the day? My mind, where is my mind at? Do I need to journal? Am I kind of getting a little tomorrow's really stressing me out? What does that list look like? oh, I was a little agitated. Do I need some gratitude? You know, like where am I in my day? And I use that as an assessment. Sometimes I'll take a cool shower. But I really do try to kind of like calm it down. I almost put myself in like that sleep deprivation prior to literally laying down and covering myself in a dark hole.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because that's really pivotal to recovering from all the workout, and you have to get up early to train. So.
And I just think that people underestimate how, like digestion, how important sleep is. Like sleep is number one. If you're waking up agitated and cranky and dropping things and you can't find your keys and you can't focus and your whole day is just that, right? It's just this domino effect of, you know, I can't get it together.
Right.
I'm like, well, did you sleep last night?
Yeah.
I just went on 36 hours of no sleep. I can tell you that brought up a lot of emotion.
I can imagine.
I was emotional and I thought to myself, oh, good thing I sleep. If I go home, I'd be crying every day. I would be a mess.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of women have sleep issues and they will self-medicate with wine or whatever else.
Yeah, but then you got the sugar. Yeah. So then it's actually, you're doing yourself a complete disservice, right? Because you're supposed to be letting your body do all of its cleansing all night long. And now you've just put alcohol in your system. Mm-hmm.
So do you drink alcohol at all or in moderation or?
I didn't for years and years and years. And it's very, very moderate, if so. And it's not a whole festive thing. It's like, oh, I'm sure I'll try a sip or so.
Like once every 6 months type of thing, or?
Once every 2 months probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's very minimal. I don't find the need for it, so I can also just go without it.
Yeah.
I have no problems. One, bringing my own food to a party.
Nice.
Or two, just saying no.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good
I think it all depends on how you want to feel the next day.
Totally. Is it worth it to be a little buzzed for an hour and then wreck your whole day? I mean, I got to that realization.
Most of the time
No. Yeah, I haven't had a drink since February.
Nice.
So it's almost been a year, yeah. So my goal was to try to go an entire year with nothing.
Oh.
Just to see.
Done deal.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. Yeah. And I usually do that too. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to. And then before you know it, you're like, I don't even think about it.
Right. And then when you see other people drunk, you're like, ooh, I do not want to be like that.
Yeah, no. Yeah. It's so much better to not.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked about sleep, recovery, exercise, weightlifting, leg training, amino acids. Any other tips that you found to be helpful after over 30 years of training that we didn't really cover?
No, there's no more excuses.
Yeah.
It almost makes me emotional because I feel like people make a lot of excuses to be really unhappy when they have so much power to feel good. And that justification is just mind-boggling to me. And so I always say, if you're having that physical resistance, discover where that came from. Because it's something that it's a brick in your backpack that you've got to let go. You've got to throw it off the mountain. You have to realize that on the other side of the no is the hugest hell yes ever. Like when you get there and you can say, like most of the stuff that I do isn't for any accolade. It's so that I can personally be like, I did that. I'm only living right now. So like what things can I put myself through? What tests can I have? Like what am I made of? You know? And so I think for people, it's like, if you're really feeling rubbed like, because I know I've noticed judgment, right? And you're like, oh, I could, but you can, and you're choosing not to. So where is that really coming from? Because you deserve it. You deserve to feel as possibly amazing as you could, you know, every day, most days, you know?
That's amazing.
So I would say it's mental.
Mental's huge.
Mental work.
Yeah. Have you noticed that you've been able to maintain your strength into your 40s? I just turned 41, so I'm in that same ballpark. And
Like I'm older than you.
well, I realized I'm as strong as I was in my teens. I'm curious about
I am
stronger.
better.
Yeah.
And I have been so happy. I don't know about you, but I'm like, oh my, crushing 20s and take that 30s. Like I was like, oh no. And then of course I was like, this better not be me peaking. How are we going to keep this going? But yeah, I have found that influx of like everything's kind of come together have just been such a sweet thing, right? If you can kind of get on any injuries prior to, that was the only thing I kind of had to address. I got hit by a cyclist when I was competing and railed me and took me out and shoulder, hip, the whole thing.
You were like, running and a bike hit you? Ooh.
As hard as humanly possible. just kind of coming back from things like that, but right, not making an excuse. Ooh, that hurts. Okay, well then we're gonna work with it. We're gonna work around it. We're gonna do whatever it takes. And I think that's the attitude.
Yeah.
What does it take?
Well, and sometimes there's a book, The Gift of Injury. There's a benefit. You know, that injury could have slowed you down, and then there could have been a drunk driver on your next run, whatever. Just looking at it, that whole burnt toast theory.
Yes.
You know, I don't know. I recently injured my rib, actually, and it's been bugging me. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was a sign to slow down. So I did a lot more leg training instead. I just didn't do my upper body.
Yeah.
I'm almost back 100%.
Oh, cool.
So,
good.
Anyway, I don't like being injured.
We're heading to the chiropractor after this. It'll be fine.
There you go. Yeah. No.
Little cryo, little chiro.
That's really important. But going back to the mindset, I think that's under-recognized. There's this 35-year ongoing study called the Dunedin study in New Zealand. And the biggest predictor of accelerated biologic aging, so you and I are in our 40s, but our biology could be younger or older based upon our lifestyle. The biggest risk factor, or the biggest factor that caused a bifurcation away from biologic aging and chronologic aging, was mindset. One's perception of how they're aging. So just you and I having the perception that we are both physically as strong as we were when we were at our peak in our teens.
Sure.
That reinforces, hey, I'm aging good. You know, like and that has a reinforcing effect. So I think, you know, when people see their body start to, you know, they get man boobs or they get a belly or whatever else, then they have this negative perception like, oh, I'm getting old and I'm getting fat. And then they start to really get chronic disease, and it's a snowball getting more momentum in the wrong direction.
Right.
So I just wanted to throw that in there because the mindset is so important.
Yeah, I just started this book called The Brave Athlete, and it's just talks about how, you know, you have the professor mind and then you have that monkey mind, and if you let the monkey mind run, then it's over, right? I think people negate how much power they have right here. Like, it's here. You have everything you need. If you could just cut the excuses. And that's why I say everything's a choice. And that's why I started my podcast, right? The shift. Like, it's all about the shift. Just you make the choice. Step into the decision. And so I always say, just decide to. That's it for today. Just decide to. Just decide to go for that walk. Just decide to drink more water. Just decide you're going to start with greens on your plate. Just decide maybe today I'm going to cut back on a little bit of meat and just see how I feel. Or if not, just cut back on dairy. If everybody could just cut back on dairy, you'd feel good. So just little things, right? I think that too, right? Everybody thinks it has to be some monumental event. And it's just baby steps. Yeah. And addressing where your headspace is at is everything. And then you sleep.
I love that. I want to get into your podcast, but one thing you mentioned, and I didn't sort of riff on it, was just showing up and doing the work in the gym.
Yeah.
Some days where I've been so tired where I was this close to not going to the gym, I just said, I'm going to go in there and at least do some push-ups. And paradoxically, it's the best workout I've ever had. And I'm like, that is, what the hell
Isn't
happened?
that the best?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's because you almost want to prove to yourself that you're not some like lazy schmuck. You're like, well, here's the thing. I was complaining about it. I wasn't really feeling it. And all of a sudden you go in and you're like, oh yeah, beast mode, game on. And that's the day I'm like, oh, you've been here for 2 hours. Now you need to go. Right? And just giving yourself that like grace of like, okay, maybe some days aren't going to feel like it when I start, but surprise yourself. Why not? If you're only here right now for this short, limited amount of time, surprise yourself. Totally. You know? I always think like maximize who you can be right now. Right. Tomorrow's not promised, as I know, right? I mean, I have spent my life, I think, chasing ghosts of my family and just realizing like every day is precious. So why not take this gift and utilize it to its best, best ability?
Yeah. Well, I think that's important for newbies or people new to fitness to hear that, wow, people who exercise all the time sometimes don't even want to go to the gym, but when they do, they have a good workout. So a big complaint for people is they don't have enough energy. And it's like, some days you have low days, but still just show up and do it.
I feel like it's muscle memory, right? I feel like the body, like that's why I always say just warm up, because I feel like once the body gets warm, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm good. And then you're like, I could dance. Okay. And I always say, have a good playlist. Have a good playlist. Sometimes like a song will come on and you're like, oh yeah, I'm good. And you start to go, and then before you know it,
Hours gone by.
You're laughing at yourself when you leave, and you're like, remember that hour ago when I said, oh, this is going to be the worst workout ever? Right. Turns out to be your best. You PR'd. Right, you row for an hour, and Mike texts you, "What, are you insane?"
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, just the amount of meters that you did. I can do, I don't know. I do on the ski erg and the Concept 2 I like.
Oh, cool.
But I'm doing more like 45 seconds all out, 60
Love
seconds. I'm not there. Like if I do any longer, I'm like, oh man, I don't know about this. I like to be outside for my cardio.
We'll team up in a race where I'll do all the distance stuff and you can do all the fast short.
Just the quick power, yeah.
Yeah.
Alicia, this has been awesome. So you have a podcast called The Shift.
It's called Give a Shift.
Give a Shift, okay.
And it's all just, it's mostly just about realizing that you don't have to make excuses to live the life you want to live.
Amazing. I love that.
Very just, and I have people on that that had something happen, an event, a core event that changed who they were and brought them into either who they needed to be, wanted to be, desired to be, and now what they're offering the world. So.
Oftentimes that event is a negative event, right?
Yeah, for most it's been very, it's been a lot of trauma. I think trauma work is very important. Stuff with PTSD, trauma, pain, dark stuff, suicide, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So.
It's interesting that these negative events, a lot of people want to mask the pain of that, but using that as a symptom to grow or change in some way. You know, feeling depressed, people get anxious and they go to the doctor. They want to mask the pain, but they don't resolve the underlying reason why they're feeling uncomfortable or depressed or anxious. And digging deep and finding the solutions and changing your life, whether it's moving, exiting a relationship, changing your occupation, all those things can be, propel you out of that malaise.
Right. And instead, there's such a beauty in exploring those feelings, and I think we're conditioned to not feel. Maybe that's why I'm an actor, but the emoting and everybody has something, and I still feel like there's this blanket statement of like, well, I can't have that because I'm the only one. But when you start to realize that everybody's got something, you are not alone. You can go to somebody. You can get help. Everybody's here for everybody. And that's when, you do those things and you're like, oh, I'm not alone and somebody else had this and now I know what I'm doing and I can have a game plan and here's how I get better and, but exploring your feelings, bring it. I usually they make me do a lot of speed work. And I remember in Bulgaria, I was shooting Lake Placid 2 as sci-fi. And of course, it's a bunch of people who don't even speak English, and I'm like, here we go, guys. And they had me like sprinting toward a ferny pad.
What,
and it was like, so a ferny pad is kind of like a mover's pad.
Oh, it's soft kind of thing?
Right, but you're like, I'd like a pad, not the blanket, right? So it's more like a little blanket with the rocks and the dirt and everything underneath. And it had to be like this front dive roll because I had to get out of the way to make it look like the crocodile was coming to get me. And you do that a couple times and you realize how old you are. Wow. But I do a lot. I've even had to do my own precision driving. I've showed up and they'd be like, so you can drive it? I'm like, sure, here we go. Stuff you don't learn in acting class that you do on set, yeah.
So a lot of it is just ad-libbing and just doing your...
Yeah, I've had to hold a really heavy camera underwater before and pretend like I was drowning. Like I've had so many things where I think that's why I say I train for life, because that physicality...
Really helps you in that
Really
situation.
helps, yeah. It brings a confidence to, wait, what are you asking me to do? Let me get my head wrapped around that. You want me to ride the bike over this hill, kind of to the side, through the, that kind of stuff, yeah.
That's kind of exciting, huh?
It is exciting. It's fun. It's a crazy business, and it's a mental one, but it is very physical. And I think that's why, we were talking like how people aren't always movie ready, but I really do try to stay at least within the vein of this is what I am, this is what I represent, and this is what I can do, versus I don't want to try to get there because it feels like it takes too long. Yeah. So that's why I tell people, let's just get you there. Right. Then you can play.
Well, then you have more opportunities because you're ready to go. What do people in the industry say about Tom Cruise and how he's aged, pretty well, all things considered? His diet, lifestyle? I know the testament is to his diet. I know that because he has even said, like I believe, he hasn't been able to like work out every day, but he's constantly on his feet and he's constantly moving, but he's like extreme advocate of that hydration. He's a huge hydrator. I know that he was like on a lot of watermelon
for a while, but he really does have a super clean diet. But right, we know food is energy.
Yeah.
If you feed that machine, it can go. And you can run on a little less sleep. You can put in a little more work. You can wake up and get yourself going a little bit more. So, I mean, there are days I get up at 2 or 3 to work out before I go to a 16-hour day.
Oh my gosh.
But I believe that if I at least put in some work before I go,
You'll be better mental space. Everything.
yeah, dealing with the people or what's thrown at you.
The drug Ozempic that's been popularized from a lot of Hollywood celebrities for weight loss, is that going around? Have you been hearing a lot about that with people in the industry?
I've heard, yes. Proud to say I'm a proud sponsor of my own self and never have taken anything. Yeah, and that breaks my heart because I just feel like there's so many ways to get where you need to be without any of that.
Right.
And it's just not necessary.
Yeah.
And I have a really hard time with people that don't kind of process the long-term effects of things. Like I'm not like, let's take this and then we'll see. I don't want to see later what I took back then that probably wasn't so great.
Yeah, I think about 10% of users have a lot of GI issues, gastroparesis or paralysis of the upper intestines. I mean, yeah, there's some pretty significant consequences, depending upon the dose.
Totally unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like you don't have to do extremes.
Right.
You don't.
I agree.
Like you just don't. You just have to be consistent. And that's the key. Like consistency really is key. It is a day in, day out type of investment.
Right. With the basics.
Yeah. It's not complicated.
Right. Alicia, I love this conversation and all your inspiration and
Oh,
how you
thank
maintain
you.
this fitness and so forth. If folks want to connect with you, are you still seeing clients right now?
I can help them nutritionally.
Cool.
Yes, and then I have like some pre-written programs for people that are either just starting or kind of want to go for like a 12-week all-out type stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And where can they find that? And then where can they find your podcast?
So the podcast is on Apple and Spotify, and it's also recorded and on YouTube. And it's called Give a Shift. And then they can find me at Alicia Ziegler on Insta.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Perfect.
So appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank you so much.
Yeah, this was great.
All right. We're going to have to race each other.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Let's bring it on.
I'll probably lose.
No, yeah, right.